Every time you travel on a bus, tube, train, or plane, you're bound to see someone playing Candy Crush, one of the most popular apps to hit the small screen. But despite its popularity, the company behind the game is seldom talked about. Well, today that changes, as in today's video, we'll dive into King Digital Entertainment and how they launched one of the most successful games ever, which has been downloaded almost 3 billion times. Here's how it happened. Ricardo Zacconi and Toby Rowland, some of a handful of founders, initially worked together on udate.com, founded by a guy called Melvin Morris, the current Derby County owner and chairman, who sold the dating site to Match.com in 2003 for $150 million. That money then became seed capital for MidasPlayer.com, which would later become King.com, with Morris providing the funding for Zacconi and Rowland, who were joined by Thomas Hartwig, Sebastian Knudsen, Lars Margren, and Patrick Stein. Through MidasPlayer.com, the group launched browser-based video games, but it wasn't all plain sailing, as the company almost went bust at the end of the year as they bled capital, needing a bailout from their chairman and founder Mel Morris just 6 months after launch. But 2 years later, the firm were turning a profit and received funding of $43 million from Apex Partners and Index Ventures, rebranding to King.com. As Facebook launched, King started to see people leaving their site in droves to play directly through the social network, specifically on games made by Zynga. King had no choice but to adapt, launching their first Facebook game in 2010, Minus Speed, similar to Bejeweled. In October 2011, they launched their first Saga game, Bubble Witch Saga, with individual levels that players could complete rather than just a how long could you last approach. Just 3 months later, and Bubble Witch Saga had 10 million players, rising to 30 million just a year after that. In 2012, King launched the game they're known for in Candy Crush, as the company shifted their focus to apps on mobile rather than relying solely on Facebook. King's in-game advertising increased tenfold over that year, with users and revenue growing like wildfire. But let's dig into what is widely regarded as one of the most financially successful games of all time. Candy Crush follows a similar match 3 tile pattern and Saga style to its predecessor, and is fairly similar in terms of gameplay. With the launch on Facebook and mobile, players were able to sync their accounts so that they could go anywhere and continue where they'd left off. It was so popular that it received 10 million downloads in its first month, becoming the most played game on Facebook by the end of 2012, and just 1 year later, it had 150 million monthly users. The game's meteoric growth is almost as extraordinary as some of its facts. Since launch, Candy Crush aficionados have played the game for 73 billion hours, the equivalent of 8.3 million years. The game has proved so popular that the creators have had to launch 5,000 levels to keep players forever entertained. Some are slightly more addicted than others, with 9 million players playing for between 3 to 6 hours daily. The game is now the second most popular game of all time on Android phones, and with more and more players playing the game, King's revenues have climbed to eye-watering levels, especially when you consider most of these stem from microtransactions after King made the executive decision to clean up their interface and remove advertising altogether in 2013 to deliver an uninterrupted gaming experience. This wasn't exactly damaging to their revenue stream, with advertising only making up 1% of revenue in 2013. Despite microtransactions being the main source of revenue, only 10% of players have ever spent money in the game. But even so, they recorded revenues of $2 billion in 2019, up from just $60 million in 2010. This is partly thanks to players of Candy Crush spending freely, with 2018 figures suggesting that the few who do spend money spent on average of $4.2 million per day. The growth in financial success saw the firm IPO in March 2014, raising $500 million and valuing the firm at $7 billion, becoming the largest ever IPO for a mobile gaming company and seeing Morris's shares valued at over $800 million, a nice return on investment after he bailed the firm out back in 2003. The IPO was fairly short-lived, as King was acquired by Activision Blizzard in 2016, known for games like Call of Duty, in a $5.9 billion deal. Activision already operated the world's largest game network at the time, and this was a way to access more gamers across the mobile platform. Whilst King Games grew to become a giant in the mobile gaming industry, its success lies with games that are almost identical in their match 3 approach. They had first mover advantage with Facebook and with their apps, which paved the way to incredible growth, and it's led to other companies cloning the games due to their simplicity, which has seen King try to trademark words like candy and Saga. What's more is that the typical Candy Crush gamer isn't your typical gamer. They're able to entertain anyone from CEOs to 12-year-olds to just parents waiting to pick up their kids from school, playing the game for 5 or 10 minutes at a time. The game satisfies people who are bored looking for a quick fix of entertainment, but what happens when those same people get bored of the tried and tested 3-tile format? Or when they catch on to how powerful microtransactions have become? Will King be able to pivot again? We'll let you decide. Thanks for watching.